Okay. I didn't realize it wasn't on. Huh? Okay. Thank you. Oh, I see it's on now. Uh, so every body is made by God. And we say often, stay in your lane, stay in your lane. If your gift is not teaching, don't sit in this seat. If you're a student, stay out there and learn. Uh, I used to tease my husband and say, uh, the reason I'm not an usher is because if my feet hurt, listen, I really don't care where you sit. And I would be teasing him about that. Uh, I was on the nurse's aide, which in the Baptist church we wear white uniforms and we have to go through some classes and all of that to assist in the event of any medical issues. In addition to that, if there was a funeral, you would have a nurse on each side because sometimes you have medical issues when people come around to view the body. So I thought because it, uh, it was a new church we had just founded, Abundant Faith, and so we had a baby that died. Now I was so upset by that. I had to stop by my girlfriend's sister's house. Both of us did to get a Valium because I knew I couldn't do that baby's funeral. And as it was, I kept standing there, and these people kept coming by and they kept crying, and understandably so. And I'm on duty and I'm just crying. I can't even see what's going on, who needs help, because I'm bawling myself. I said, well, that's not for me. That's not for me. You ought to know what God's given you, where He wants you to operate in the church. I tell Brother Ray all the time, I don't know how you do different things with each hand and then work your feet too. I don't know how that works. And I'll watch him and I'll say, wow, how does he do that? Because I can't play a drum. I can just bong, bong, bong. That ain't what you need in a musician. I tried to learn. I took piano. My mother used to play by ear and had played since she was like 2 or 3. And I wanted so badly to play the piano, and I just didn't have it. I have it here in my head. I know what I'm hearing, but I can't reproduce it in my hands. So and I may have shared this with you before. I learned it took me an entire semester, and I learned 2 songs: "Bluebells of Scotland" and "Home on the Range." Now, who you know that knows "Bluebells of Scotland"? Most black folk can't even find it on the map. And "Home on the Range." Who wants to sing that? So, piano playing wasn't for me. I've got a brother that can play 11 instruments. I'm thinking that you could have saved me 2. Uh, but anyway, wherever God places you, and that's the key, wherever God places you, what He assigns for you, stay there and work to the best of your ability. Uh, God has given gifts to all of his people. Some people are supporters. They work behind the scenes. You don't hear anything about it. Okay, when we come in here, the lights are on, the heat or the air is on, uh, chairs in their proper position. Who does that? Besides the people that do it, does anybody know who does that? They're working behind the scenes. They don't stand up there in the front and say, well, I'm the one, thank the Lord, that set the heat on. Y'all did realize that I did it, didn't you? Some people work behind the scenes. You don't see what they do. But whatever God has anointed and chosen you to do, stay in your lane. Quit trying to do something that you got no business doing. When I step back in the back where grandson's working on, he got all these screens and buttons and, I don't know anything about that. If I have to do anything besides check the time on my phone, I have to call Keon and say, how do I do that? She was in Chicago for the weekend working, and I couldn't wait for her to come back because I had something that I needed to be able to transfer some money. Anyway, God works in that particular way. So, going back to a place for the ark. Give me just a second to get back. Okay. So Solomon has built his own palace. And he's wanting to build the temple of God. A temple where God could reside and where the Ark of the Covenant could be. The Ark of the Covenant was a housing place to put the Ark. I'm sorry, to put the covenant. The covenant was what Moses brought down from Mount Sinai. And it was the tablets. And those were the laws. And I just wanted to read this little bit to you. Solomon's final phase sums up what this whole text means to the children of Israel. I have built you an exalted house, a place for you to dwell in forever. Because prior to that, they had moved it from place to place. The children of Israel endured many times of instability, wandering in the wilderness, warring with other tribes to acquire the promised land, changing leadership during the time of the judges, warring during the times of Saul and David. They were fighting with the Philistines and the Amorites and the Hittites and the Jebusites and all the other sites. They could have just walked over into the land, but they wanted to send out spies. That was a lack of faith. Go over there and see if we can conquer these people. God said, go do it. So they send the 10 spies, and we know that only 2 came back with a good report because the other 10 said, oh my goodness, those people are like giants, and we look like ants to them. That wasn't no problem. They probably did. But then they said, and we look like ants in our own eyes. God has said, go in and just conquer the land. He didn't say everybody under 6 feet. He didn't say anything about that. Go conquer the land. I'm going to give you the land from these people. And every time they talked to God and obeyed him, he allowed them to win the battles. We know that David was a warrior, which is why God said that you're not going to be the one to build my temple. Okay. So, Solomon summons into his presence at Jerusalem all the elders of Israel, all the heads of the tribes, and the chiefs of the Israelite families to bring up the ark of the Lord's covenant from Zion, the city of David. Now, just like in the church, every group has a leader. You don't have two presidents. You can have a president and a vice. You can't be president of the usher board and be vice president as well. God has a position in order to keep the order. And so if you're going to include everybody, you got to have some leaders. And every leader needs some followers. All followers need a leader. So he's breaking it down. He's saying all the elders of Israel, that would be the old men, all the heads of the tribes, that would be whoever's over those 12 tribes, the chiefs of the Israelite families. There was a head of the family, every family, and they're to bring the ark of the Lord's covenant to its final resting place, because they've been all these different places, and for for many years, the ark stayed in a tent. And even David brought the tent and the ark of the covenant to Jerusalem. All the Israelites came together to King Solomon. It was the time of the festival of Ethanan. Now, I'm not real sure. Give me a second and I'll be able to tell you. Okay. It was a festival in the month in the 7th month. Now, I found it, hold on, I found it in the Amplified Version, which told me a little more. Okay. This particular feast was in the month of September/October, the 7th month, because their calendar is different from ours. So it's good to just information, just history. So all the Israelites come together to King Solomon at the time of the festival, and it's going to be a huge celebration. But because Solomon ordered all of these people, all of Israel, he brought them together, and when they arrived, the priest took the ark up to the temple that Solomon had built. And they brought the ark of the Lord and the tent meeting and all the sacred furnishings in it. The priest and the Levites carried them up. It didn't say anything about the heads of the family brought them up. Y'all's job is to show up and celebrate. And we've got specific people, the priest and the Levites. The Levites were always designed as the tribe that celebrated, that worshiped. They had charge of all the devotions, all the dedications. I guess it was, I could probably compare that to like the praise team. Imagine a huge praise team. And so they bring up everything. And it was a lot of stuff that went in there. All these sacred furnishings, uh, the ark itself, you had to carry it a certain way. You had to pack it a certain way so that nothing fell off or was damaged. So King Solomon and the entire assembly of Israel that had gathered with about were before the ark sacrificing. God always requires a sacrifice. Always. We're told, let your body be a living sacrifice. And isn't he in the position to ask for that? After all, he sacrificed his only child. He sent him here. He knew he was going to be tortured. He was going to be treated badly. Reputation sullied. He knew all that, and he sent him anyway. Now, who in here would send their firstborn or their only child? Mm-mm. Y'all know I like that. I love me some Pastor Firstborn. I wouldn't even give you a picture of him, much less send him. I wouldn't even let you put a picture of him and throw darts at it, much less all the fighting and stuff that went on. They sacrificed so many sheep and so many cattle so that you couldn't even number it. Just imagine the entire nation. And they're sacrificing and sacrificing. And they wanted the best, and they had the best. The priest then, after all of this sacrificing goes on, the priest then brought the Ark of the Lord's covenant to its place in the inner sanctuary. Now, of the temple. Now, here's the temple. And it would be like the vestibule. Then this would be the holy. And then all of that would be covered by a curtain. And that would be considered the Holy of Holies. Bishop talks about that a lot. Only the high priest could go to the Holy of Holies because his job was to prepare and live the life so that he was holy enough to do that. And so once a year, he'd go in to sacrifice for the people, for all the people's sins. And Bishop has explained, and we know it to be so, they put that little rope on him just in case he wasn't as holy as he presented himself to be. Just drag him on out of there because he's going to drop dead. Okay? Now, there was a cherubim that they put over the back of the ark and spread the wings over the place of the ark. And it was so big it just overshadowed the entire ark and the long poles that carried it. Those poles were so long that the ends could be seen from the holy place in the inner sanctuary. That would be in here. You could just, even if you were as far as out there on the street, you could see it. Now, you couldn't see anything in the holiest place, the Holy of Holies, but you could see those wings. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 stone tablets that Moses had placed in it at Horeb, where the Lord made the covenant with all the Israelites after they came out of Egypt. He promised them to be in a land of their own. He gave Moses the tablets with the 10 Commandments on it. This was a very, very important thing. And things that are holy, You don't want to use them for anything else. Okay, like we would never want the offering baskets to be used as a flower pot. You see what I'm saying? Who would want to turn these chairs into dining room chairs? Who would want to do that? Not after you sat on them and you know what they are. The and we've talked about this before. The the confession booth that the Catholics have. Well, I don't know what city it was, but all this cathedral had closed up, and somebody bought the confessional booth and made a an office. He put the books on, and and made it into a desk, and I thought, I just wouldn't want that for any reason. You see people take pews out of churches, and you'll see them at the Texas Roadhouse for people to sit on. And I'm thinking I'd rather stand than sit on a church pew in a restaurant. And it's not that I've made idols of these things. I'm just uncomfortable. Who would want these chairs sitting in your family room where the kids are going to jump and play all over them? Am I making my point? And so these things were just very holy. And when the priest came out of the Holy of Holies, the cloud of God filled the temple. And the priests couldn't even go in there and perform their services anymore because the cloud, the glory of the Lord, filled his temple. Now, when the glory of God fills a place, once something is filled, you can't put anything else in it. And the cloud was dark and dense. It's just like when smoke is it's so dense in the fire, you can't see the door. You don't know how to get out. So, and when we come here, this sanctuary has been dedicated for just that. I wouldn't want to see, say we went to another building. I'd be feeling some kind of way if they turned this into a restaurant. I just really would. And build the bar over on that. I just would feel some kind of way about that. What is holy should stay holy. Period. Because that's the design of God. That does not mean that we worship these things or we make idols out of them. We should have a deep respect for the things of God. Now, you can do what you want to do with your furniture at home. You let your kids bounce, your children, your grandkids, the dog can sit up there. It doesn't matter. Who would bring their dog in here and set him up on a pew because he used to sitting on the couch next to his master? If somebody did that, we'd all be sitting around squirming. Lord, who's going to tell them to take that dog up out of here? We wouldn't feel right about that. Because this is not an animal house. This is a house of God. So while he's, I want to go back up here. Then Solomon said, The Lord has said that he would dwell in a dark cloud. I have indeed built a magnificent temple for you, a place for you to dwell in forever. Isn't that marvelous? And this place has been built, and it's magnificent. I wouldn't care if it had nothing but folding chairs that and different kinds of chairs from the Goodwill. It wouldn't matter if it's sacrificed to God. It's magnificent because he's magnificent and his spirit is magnificent. When we pull up on the parking lot, anybody, when you pull up on the parking lot, how do you feel? Anybody? How you feel when you pull up on the parking lot? Hmm? You feel differently than you feel pulling up in your driveway at home. And by the time you walk into the vestibule, you probably will experience kind of a lightening of your load, your mental load. And by the time you walk in here, you know the Lord is meeting you here. And it's a totally different feeling. I don't care what's wrong with me. When I step into the sanctuary, I feel better about it. I just do. I've spent most of not most, a lot of this morning with my asthma nebulizer because I was trying to get that asthma under control. And I really didn't want to miss church. And so I had a longing to be here. And I haven't coughed since I came in this sanctuary. I don't expect to be hacking in here. Now, sometimes it will happen, but never to the point where you have to call an ambulance and have me taken out. Never. And whatever burdens that you may have, because everybody going through something. Everybody got something going on in their lives, whether it's financial or loneliness, or you're upset about the job, or the children aren't acting right, whatever. Everybody got something going on. But when you come into the sanctuary of God, you come to meet him. It's like when you, certain places you go, there's someone to help take your coat off. Bishop talks about the fancy restaurants where they come and with one little, and they take that napkin and drop it in your lap. I said, that's what I'm talking about. It's a beautiful linen napkin. Not them paper towels or not the paper napkins from the Dollar Tree. It takes 4 of them to wipe your mouth. That's a restaurant. And you got to take some money up in there if you're going to sit and eat. There are different places and different values on those places. I have no idea what it costs to build this church. I have no idea what it costs to maintain it. But I do know that every Sunday we come here, the church is standing. At my former church, we had this, it was at 38th and Midhofer. And that was when the tornado came through and tore up a bunch of churches and buildings, and they had the Red Cross trucks out there with food and fruit and drinks and all that for the people that were working. And we passed the church, and the roof was just ripped off. Part of our roof was across the street, at the service station. It just blew up everything. And we couldn't get into the church for weeks because the city inspector said we couldn't. We would just drive past the church, and just cry. When we were able to get back in, which was a couple months later, honestly, there was mold standing this far off of the walls. This far. I didn't know mold grew like that. But it broke our hearts to see our church that way. God's sanctuary. You want it to be as beautiful as it can be. You want it to be as clean as it can be. The girl that runs the sweeper, by the time you get through singing Joy and Peace, she got the sweeper going. And we come in here week after week, and it's always clean. And it's always ready for worship and for praise. And how many of you in here just love the church house? If something were to happen and the church was closed, we couldn't get into the church on a particular Sunday, how would you feel? Very. Of course, knowing Bishop, we'd have it on the parking lot and keep your umbrellas up, you know. But yeah, this place is dedicated, just as the temple was dedicated. The Ark of the Covenant was sacred. And this place is sacred. We're having a few issues, with, I remember one grandmother would come with a shopping bag full of toys for her grandchild. You see the kids, the teenagers, and I got some grandchildren now, like 8, 9 years old with a telephone whipping out, And so I just went through like one particular Sunday and took them all. You don't need no, unless you're reading the Bible. But when you're back there playing games, you take that to your house, your car. You don't bring that mess into the sanctuary. Because this is a place of holiness. We don't have an Ark of the Covenant, but make no mistake about it. The Lord's presence fills this temple. And if we're not right, the closer you come to wherever you sit, you can just feel that weight going off of you. How many have come in here and didn't feel well? And then you feel better after you got here. It's just a wonderful thing. I never felt that way when I was going in the club. I had dance fever. Oh yeah, I'm popping. It's popping. It's on and popping. I can't wait to order me some Remy Martin. Straight up waterback. I can't wait to hit the dance floor. And that was fun. But we don't have fun here. We have joy. You see the difference? What we give to Satan, we don't give that to God. Okay. Do we have any questions or comments? I know we're late, but Bishop ain't here, so. Bishop here? Ooh. I know it. I was just watching the door kind of stalling because I didn't think anything was going on. Go ahead, though. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if God sends you here, stay here. No, I'm talking to all of us. If God sent you here, stay here. Okay.